the African connection, or should I say the African history classroom, but the Hicks connection. Okay. And this is your African history teacher, Professor Hicks, joining you this morning about 10 o'clock and feeling sprite and ready to go. Um, and again, I try to make these updates and videos as short as I can now. All right, I know you like it like that. So I wanted to introduce you to our new topic going forward for the month, and I wanted to show you the book. So some of you might want to go purchase it. It's by Professor Tony Browder. I'm not sure if he's a professor, but I know he is the only African person or African American who has a major excavating site in Egypt. Yeah, you should check him out. Google him, and he has done major work. There has been no other African person of African descent, particularly African Americans, who are in Egypt and are responsible for a major dig. Yes, very important. But anyway, let me show you his book. All right, and we're going to be working from this book, Nile Valley Contributions to Civilization. Yes, there would be no civilization. We wouldn't have a civilization without the Nile Valley. Yes, the greatest, probably the first. There's a big debate between Mesopotamia and them, but if not the first, definitely the greatest civilization ever. All right, so we're going to talk about that. We're going to start with geography. Now, all you guys, you got to learn geography. I know it's tough, but you can't talk about these things without knowing your geography. All right, so let me give you a little beginning, a little head start. So, one of the most important aspects to the Nile Valley, of course, is the Nile River. Yes. All right. Yes, the Nile River. And there's two things you should know about the Nile River. All right, because it was so important to the development of what we would now call Egypt. And, Egypt gets all the love. But where the love should be sent is to southern parts of Egypt. Mainly Kush, Sudan, the Romans called it Nubia, but this is where Pharaonic Egypt, by that I mean pharaohs were established there. Pharaonic Egypt got all the components of its civilization. It received its riches, it received its genius from the southern parts of Egypt, particularly Sudan, Kush, Ethiopia. But how did those components arrive? How did they get there? See, so let's talk about one thing about it's very important about the Nile River. First of all, the Nile River is the longest river in the world. Did you know that? And I'll leave it to you to find out what is the second longest. But I'll probably mention it before I'm off today. All right, so that's one fact. The Nile River is the longest river in the world. Now, there's another fact about this river that is really, really important. The Nile River is one of the only rivers that flows from south to north. From south to north. Why? We're going to explore that. All right? The second longest river in the world, by the way, now I'm going to give you, is the Amazon River. And I believe it also runs from south to north. So of course, there's an explanation as to why these rivers run counter to every other river in the world. Because as you know, gravity takes us and takes most other things from high to low. As we are maintaining our balance and our semblance on the earth and the ground because of gravity. It also affects other parts of nature, particularly rivers, and that's why most of them flow in that way. But there are two, Amazon and the Nile, that flow in the opposite direction. So we'll talk about why that happens. It is also very important to understand that people in Egypt had a southern, because of this river flow, a southern orientation. What does that mean, Professor Hicks? Well, that means that people in Egypt, particularly ancient Egypt, looked south as their homeland, looked south as where the genius emerged, looked south to return to find its greatness. Whenever Egypt went through a very difficult time, mostly those who came to save Egypt looked south. They looked back from whence they came. Much like the term Sankofa. Yes, Sankofa, or the Sankofa bird, which finds its neck twisted back, looking back from whence it came. And we as Africans must do the same. We must look back into our history to find the way forward for our future. And that's what this class is all about. Trying to find our way forward out of this current mess, but out of the historical mess that has been set for us as a trap for our genius. So that is going to be the first part of our discussion on history, talking about the Nile Valley civilization. And then from there, of course, that is the geography part. And that is important. You're going to see why. You can't talk about Egypt. You can't run around talking about the achievements in Egypt, talking about how great Egypt is, talking about what Egypt has contributed to the world without understanding the geography. Just like when we talked about Spain or the Iberian Peninsula. So I'm gathering all my tools and all my instruments to be able to present this to you, and I'll be jumping on and back and forth, and we'll try to keep the segments short so they're more enjoyable. You don't have to bog yourself down for 20, 30 minutes, so probably 20 minutes, but I'm definitely going to try to make sure they don't go more than 20 minutes, and you can enjoy them and then get up and do what you need to do. All right, so again, you need to get this book. It's very cheap on Amazon or anywhere. You should have it anywhere as a frame of reference. This is one of the great books of time. This book is about 20 years old and is still relevant. You will see. And you will learn things from this book that you hear people talking about and discussing every day, and you're going to go, wow, particularly about Egypt, that is. And you go, wow, wow. So it's a wow book, okay? All right, and so with that said, I'm Saturday again. It's about 10 o'clock. I've been on for about 5 minutes. I'll be jumping back on today with some little tidbits, but don't forget, remember, our first geography lesson, the greatness of the Nile. And what are two important things about the Nile? A, it's the longest river in the world. It runs, well, I'm going to save that for later. And B, it flows, unlike any other river, it flows from south to north. All right, and that's the first little tidbit you're going to receive from Professor Hicks. And we're going to come back and we're going to enjoy this topic, Egypt, or I'm going to call it Egypt Revisited, much like I think Dr. Van Sertima's book, Egypt Revisited. Okay? All right, fans and folks, you have a wonderful Saturday, and keep on keeping on, and I'll see you very, very soon.